To our last panel for this edition of Nextv CU Africa. I have the pleasure to welcome as speakers today Candice, Andrew, Joy, Awais, and Telma for the panel discussion on Country Focus Nigeria, and our moderator for this panel is Peter from BBC World News. I would like to show you all a short video on Focus Africa.
Stories of Africa, the latest regional developments, and up-to-the-minute business, art, and sports reports. News from around the continent seen through African eyes. Focus on Africa from BBC World News.
Over to you, Peter.
Many thanks, Shanna, and thanks to our audience who are watching this seminar. I just want to say a thank you to the speakers as well, and just try and elaborate a little bit on that little reel that you've just seen. You know, Focus on Africa. We're a program that goes out on BBC World News, but not only that, we're distributed amongst partner stations across the continent. And even though we're mainly focused on telling Africa's story to the rest of the world, we also like to tell the rest of the world's story to Africa. So, for instance, in the last 3 weeks or so, I've been on the border between Ukraine and Poland, talking to those fleeing the fighting in Ukraine, the Africans fighting fleeing the fighting in Ukraine, and gathering their experiences to tell to the rest of Africa. But like I said, thank you very much for joining us here on this panel. I'm just going to jump straight into it because we don't really have much time. And I want to start by asking the question of what's the state of the landscape of broadcasting on the African continent. I'm going to start with Andrew and Telma, because both of you work with actual TV stations. What's the state of broadcasting in Nigeria at the moment? Let me start with Andrew.
Hi, Peter. Hi, everybody. It's a very competitive environment here, certainly in Nigeria. We've got a lot of television stations, a lot of radio stations. We operate 2 TV channels, 3 radio channels. One is a news broadcaster, a 24-hour news station. The other one's an entertainment channel. It's fiercely competitive, and I guess the main focus of attention right now, probably over here, what's occupying everybody's minds is the introduction of DTT, digital terrestrial television. Our UHF transmitters are supposedly being turned off sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. But this has been an ongoing saga since 2015. So we're not altogether sure when it's going to happen. I know it's a major issue down in South Africa. The SABC down there is very unhappy about their transmitters being turned off. So I suspect we probably have a similar situation here in Nigeria, because so many people receive their TV and their video from free TV providers like ourselves. Free TV is still very much where it's at. Certainly here in Nigeria, I suspect in many parts of Africa, right across the continent. Subscriptions like Netflix and Amazon are very much for the minority who can afford it. Most people can't afford to subscribe to those particular services. So the future for free TV and FM radio is very bright. Radio is huge. It's always been huge here, and it continues to be a dominant medium.
And Telma, what about with you? I mean, you work for NTA, you're managing programs there in NTA, which is the largest TV station in Nigeria with the widest reach as well. How are you finding things in this field? I suspect we're having problems with getting through to Telma. I know she is on the line.
But she's muted there. She's muted.
Telma, if you can unmute your microphone. Telma, can you hear me? Can you unmute your microphone? Thelma, I know you're trying to speak, but your microphone is muted. Can you unmute your microphone?
Okay, I've unmuted.
Okay, let's go. I can hear you now. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. We have the
Okay, I think Thelma's having connectivity issues. There we can't really hear you, and you're
have always known that our region. But beyond that, we knew we'd had to look at things. Tossing.
Okay, Thelma, we might have to come back to you because you're freezing there. I mean, Andrew's mentioned how crowded the landscape is when it comes to TV broadcasting in Nigeria, but he's also mentioned the fact that, you know, there's this talk about moving to digital television in the country. I know the government has postponed it yet again, but let me come to you, Awais. Awais, how difficult is this migration from DTT, from terrestrial television to a more digital-based landscape?
Thank you, Peter. Look, I think it is somewhat difficult because it requires people to upgrade boxes as well. And, you know, I think the distribution is an issue. You know, I think DTT migration is great, obviously, in some ways, but obviously there's a lot of challenges. I think Andrew mentioned in South Africa, you know, with SABC, for example, the issue is they lose a lot of viewers unless people have been upgraded with their boxes in order to be able to receive a DTT signal. You know, I think moving to DTT, it will not give you coverage across the whole country. So I think satellite will play a role there as well. You know, I think as you go further beyond, you know, the cities, it will become more and more difficult to receive a DTT signal. And you will never get 100% coverage with DTT. So I think satellite will play a role in that as well. But I think those are the challenges in terms of, you know, distribution of the boxes. And, you know, I'm not sure this situation in Nigeria, if it's being subsidized or not, but there's a cost, you know, to the consumer to be able to switch over from, you know, an analog to a digital signal, and someone has to bear that cost.
Well, I mean, we're just trying to get into digital now. We're talking about satellite being even more effective. And of course, we also have competition from the OTT services. You know, a lot of people consuming their information, their entertainment on the go. Let me come to you about this one, Candice. Just how important is you know, digital content on the go, and how do Nigerians maximize this potential?
I think, you know, over the top and streaming services has a big role to play. It's still very small at this point in time. As we know, data costs are incredibly high and access isn't as easy. One thing we have found, and, you know, this is across the African continent, is consumers are looking to OTT streamers for very specific shows, for very specific originals. So, you know, it comes down to, is your content worth my data? And if there's a specific show or a specific series or movie that they want to watch, they will find a way to, you know, sign up for that specific show. So I think, you know, we are working with a number of telco partners to try and make it easy for consumers to access, you know, our streaming service. And in time, we'll continue to focus on that, you know, be it from billing point of view, ease of use, you know, just to make it easier for Africans to consume over the top. Because it absolutely, you know, it's where the world is going, a lot slower in Africa, of course, and in Nigeria. But I think a number of hurdles to jump. And I think, yeah, we're just kind of preparing and trying to cover those.
Indeed, you know, you've mentioned the issue of content. It's very, very important what content you're producing. And it's a subject I'd like to come back to later on during this discussion. But Joy, I'm going to pose the same question to you. How do you move rapidly from analog to digital and then straight into mobile? Hello, Joy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. So I can't agree more with Candice, right? She's right on, you know, on point there with regards to what the consumers want to access and the reason they want to access that. From where we are sitting as a satellite operator, we can see what's actually going on in the market. And of course, the truth is the consumers want to access content anytime, anywhere, on whatever devices they have access to at any given point in time, and of course on what formats they want to watch their content. And in that respect, SCS as a satellite operator have over the years positioned ourselves to be able to support the broadcasters, our customers in Nigeria, and of course other parts of Africa, in ensuring that they provide the right quality of content to the consumers. We support both standard definition formats as well as HD formats. And if you may allow me to touch a little bit on the migration, on the DTT migration from analog to digital transmission. SCS is privileged as a satellite operator to be involved in the Nigerian digital migration process from inception in 2014. We have been supporting this program, and we do this by, of course, combining our space segment, satellite capacity, and ground services to ensure that the free TV platform, which is the DSO brand in Nigeria, has the best quality of content, and as well as reaches the right audience. The issue of coverage cannot be overemphasized. We see today that the terrestrial infrastructure, of course, cannot reach 100% of the Nigerian population. And this is where satellite comes to play. And like I said, we are well positioned to continue to support this movement and provide the needed services to ensure that the DSO migration reaches everybody in Nigeria, because everybody has the right to access content or information. And this is where we play strongly.
That's very, very interesting. I'll come back to you with another question about your involvement in this migration in a short while, Joy, but I'm going to go back to Andrew and hopefully to Thelma. I mean, how ready is TVC, which you head in Lagos, Andrew, and Thelma, NTA, how ready are both these stations for the migration when it does happen? Andrew.
I mean, the simple answer to that, Peter, is we're ready to go now. Literally what happens is we pass our signal over to the DTT transmission providers, of which there are two in Nigeria. So it's as simple as that. So, there are a lot of positives with DTT as well, because it means ultimately there's more choice for the consumer. There'll be up to 60 channels available on the new free TV system, the digital free TV system. So that's good for consumers. But the immediate hurdle is that they have to get a set-top box, and that set-top box could cost anything from 5,000 to 12,000 to 15,000 naira, which a lot of people just don't have. So the question is, who is going to subsidize the boxes? Our local government is going to subsidize the boxes. We also have a presidential and general election and gubernatorial elections, which are coming up in the first quarter of 2023. I can't imagine that DTT is going to happen before that date, because it will cause consternation, certainly in terms of coverage of the election for the mass populace here. But the question is, who is going to pay for the set-top boxes? That hasn't been resolved. From our position as a broadcaster, we're ready to go. And certainly, I would like to think that when DTT does come, or before it comes, that we would be positioning ourselves to launch more channels than what we have at the moment, to offer more choice to the consumer, and of course to offer more choice as well to our advertisers, who are the ones that pay the bills and keep us in business.
And Thelma, what about you? How ready is the NTA for this migration?
We began, government brought an idea called the digital switch over, which was to give a platform for both public and private entrepreneurs who were involved in broadcast television. But before then, NTA had begun with Star Times, and Star Times is in 35 states of the Federation. And we have our free TV as well as the one you can pay for, so that those who cannot afford to be on satellite or to be on terrestrial can just pay 1,500 Naira a year. But then the government came with DSO idea and then carved out ITS from the Nigerian Television Authority. And ITS has been able to make itself very present and visible in 8 states. But I think InView and Pinnacle are still catching up. But the NTA is taking great advantage of its reach, because our own definition of television, of broadcast, of being in Nigeria is to have the ability at any time to get authentic, reliable, and on-time information about what is going on in the country. So, of course, it is current now to watch television online. We're taking advantage of that, but we also know that many people like to watch television at home. They want to catch the news. They want to get it authentic and on time. So we still take care of that. And with just 1,500 Naira, over 100 million people in 35 states can know what's up. We do that in different languages too. We have a language channel. We have over 20 languages. Okay, major language as well as minor languages, so that you can know what is happening even in your mother tongue. We also want to deal with drama. People like humor, they want to laugh. So we use ingenious and creative ways to pass on serious information as well. Then through entertainment. And besides that, we're not resting. We know that many young people use their Android phones to catch up. So we have our hub now, the NTA. All our online platforms are being harmonized into one place, so that with one click, you can see everything NTA has on show. From way back, you can go back like 5-10 years, and you can also know what happened yesterday for the young people, for the adults, and also for the elderly.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Thelma. Great to finally have you participating on the panel. I want to just segue away from that a little bit now, because Thelma has mentioned, what kind of content they go into. So I just want to go into content more specifically from here on in. Candice, let me come with you. You are with Showmax. You are content providers across the continent. What kind of content do you find audiences most wanting to consume?
Thanks, Peter. When we look at our data, and I think that's the joy that we have as a streaming service, we have the ability to see what people are watching, when they're watching it, and how long are they consuming content for. So we really do understand our consumers and, the kind of content that they want to watch. As at the end of 2021, one thing, was very, very fundamental, and that is viewers have a huge appreciation for local content. And we increasingly see this across all of our key markets, that local content works. Nigerians want to see local Showmax originals. And this year, if we look back at the results that we had, we released our first Showmax original called I Am Lakon, which was a celebrity-driven reality series, which did incredibly well, and that broke records. The minute it released, it was the most first-day views that we had on the platform. We then released Big Brother Nigeria Season 5, and that then broke records for the most live streamed content in Nigeria on Showmax. And then, following on from that, we've got a huge show coming up called The Real Housewives of Lagos. And we've literally just put the trailer out, and we see this gravitation towards The Real Housewives of Lagos. So I think, in terms of the content that we've got, the local angle is skewing in the biggest way. When you've got local comedians, Basket Mouth, who is incredibly popular in country, we released Ghana Jollof, and that sat at the top of the charts for 13 weeks non-stop. So there's this high gravitation towards local content, seeing the local celebrities and artists on screen. And I think one thing that we are priding ourselves at Showmax is we really, really ramping up on that. And particularly in Nigeria, we want to give audiences what they love. And we want to invest in African content, created and produced by Africans in Africa for Africans, to understand the nuances, the culture, the lifestyle, the literature, the art, and really bring that to the screens. And I think in the streaming world, we have the ability to do that. We have the ability to tell different stories, tell authentic African stories. We don't have, any bars held. We have the ability to have this blank canvas to create new and exciting stories. So I think, for us, we are going all in on local content and, just trying to deliver the best shows that we can in country.
That's very interesting, Candice, because as a news person, I picked up very quickly on the fact that, your biggest content seems to be entertainment or reality TV based, nothing to do with news. I don't know if that's to do with the audience that you're catering to particularly, but Andrew, people like you who produce news content, does this mean that you are being left behind?
No, I mean, there are different sections of the market, I guess, that go for different things. I mean, as I said, there's huge competition in television throughout Africa, throughout the continent. Local broadcasters play a very important role. News is hugely important for us. We employ a lot of journalists and a lot of producers working full-time in news. But whilst news is probably, it's the biggest draw on our entertainment channel, for example. As I said, we have a news channel and we have an entertainment channel, but the news on the entertainment channel, the news at 7 and news at 10, draw huge audiences for us. So it's a very important part of what we offer. In addition to that, of course, you've got local talk shows that we produce, which are also huge for us. Your View with Mariah Afolabi Brown every day pulls in 2.5 million viewers, for example, which is a really is one of the top shows in Lagos and throughout the country. So we do very well from all of that local material. However, as Candice said earlier on there, just a couple of moments ago, the big shiny floor shows are really, really important. As a local broadcaster, we don't have the resource to produce shows like that. So we've got to get clever about how we engage and how we get involved in those programs. So now we're partnering with the producers of some of those big shows, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which is shot here in Lagos, does very well. It's not exclusive to us, but we show it. We share in the advertising revenue around it. The Voice, which is also another huge international format. Love Island is coming here as well. So we're partnering. We have to find ways to recreate ourselves with companies like Candice's and anybody else that we can do partnership deals with. So we can bring those big shows to our channels, even though we haven't got the resource to produce them and to do as good a job as Candice and all the companies she would work with, who are hugely experienced in producing those shows. So you've got to get clever about how you exist in this market. Otherwise, you're going to die. You've got to be relevant to a young audience. There's no question about it. And that's why we have to partner with big producers to try and bring in those shows. So we've about 22 million audience a day watching our TV channels, our radio channels, and our online offerings as well. So we have big power. We can pull in huge audiences. Advertisers want that, but the audiences want top quality shows as well. So we kind of straddle the two sides of the coin, if you like. One is that we will always do the local content that is very, very important to the local Nigerian audience. News is hugely important, but they do want the big shiny floor shows, the big productions that others do very, very well, and which we will partner with.
Indeed, and that brings us to the matter of who pays for this beautiful content. I mean, I know that there's so much talent in Nigeria. If you look at Nollywood, look at the music industry, look at broadcasting, there's so much talent. But Awais, how do you harness all this talent and who pays for it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a lot of growth still in the market in Nigeria for pay TV, be it satellite or be it OTT. It will only grow. And, we're talking about, one of the largest countries population-wise in Africa. So there's a lot of potential there. Hence, I think also there's a lot of broadcasters, who are trying to navigate that space. Look, our strategy is, free for streaming. So we aggregate channels, and the idea is we want to put them on for free for streaming. We understand the challenges with data usage and so forth, which we're trying to work through, but we think it's in its infancy, and it will increase over time, as 5G comes to the market. So I think there's a play for both, paid content. There's a market for that, and there's also a market for free content. The reality is I don't see sports, for example, sports rights being free. So someone will have to recover that somehow, and unless the advertising income is going to shoot up significantly, that will remain paid TV. So I think it's a combination. It depends, on your audience, but we see in other markets, people have multiple subscriptions or multiple ways of viewing content, which is combined between free and paid. So I don't think it's a one fit solution, so to speak. I don't think there's, you're either going to be paid or you're going to be free. I think there will be a combination of it, and it will serve different requirements, for the different audiences. Some people want to watch sports, some people want to watch entertainment. Some people want to watch, terrestrial channels as well for the news, localized news. So I think there's a broad market there.
Indeed. Joe, I don't know how much you agree with that. Is that the way forward, trying to produce as much content as you want for as much diverse as audience as you can get?
Of course, yes, I agree with that. Though SCS is not a content producing organization. Yeah, what we do is to support, the content producers, content right owners, and of course the broadcasters. Yeah, but I agree that the strategy for content producers is to be able to structure their content production in such a way that regardless of whatever genre of content you have produced, it should be able to be relevant in the market, considering the dramatic, dynamic, changing market trends in Nigeria today. Yeah, so and when that happens, then it gives the broadcasters, the opportunity to grab on the right, to grab the right content to add to their bouquet or to their channel list in order to still retain their relevance and importance, like Andrew mentioned earlier. Otherwise, they tend to lose out, in the market, going by the way online digital streaming services is going in the country. Yeah, but in all, as a satellite provider, we are better positioned to support whatever business model that these broadcasters works for them, because we understand, of course, the challenges of funding. They are struggling with funds to buy content, to pay for the content, the right content. They are struggling with piracy issues. They're struggling with cost of operations and all that. So as a satellite operator, we understand the needs of our customers, and this is because we are local. We have a local presence in Nigeria, so we see these people, we interact, we feel their pulses, and we know what's happening, and we position ourselves in such a way that we'll continue to add value to them, to be able to help them to deliver in their individual areas.
And I just want to, just continue with that a little bit. As somebody who helps provide satellite for content producers, satellite distribution for content producers, but in your experience, what's the easiest kind of content to distribute?
Every content can easily be distributed. What defines the flexibility is actually the business model. And what we have noticed in our years of experience and playing in the Nigerian market is that some of these broadcasters actually, they have a good plan, they have a good business case, but then they don't have the right strategy. So for us as a satellite operator, we also act as a trusted advisor in a way of helping to build the right business, the business case for the broadcasters, and to, work alongside their budgets, and of course what they want to achieve in terms of reach, in terms of eyeball growth, and whatever exactly they're trying to achieve, that satellite services that we provide can support. Yeah.
Indeed. Let me move on to Thelma now. I mean, of everyone here, you probably work for the biggest organization. I certainly believe so. NTA. You are taxpayer funded, just like we are here at the BBC. So it means you have to cater to every single person's taste in Nigeria. Does that make your job more difficult, or does that actually make it easier because you've got such a broad spectrum to work with?
Thelma, does Thelma take it up? Thelma?
Thelma, can you hear us? I think you're on mute again.
I can hear you.
Okay, did you hear my question?
Yes, I did.
Fantastic.
Before broadcasting was being set up to make money, large sums of money for the entrepreneurs who owned organizations, it was first set up to make people enjoy learning about themselves. That's why we have what we call the target audience. That's why we say content is king and the viewer is queen. And you can switch the titles, depends on what suits you. Broadcasting is interesting, and thankfully, many young people are interested in broadcasting in whatever medium you want to share your information. So it may be tasking, but it's also very interesting and fulfilling because everything has its own place. And as you move forward, you can begin to align a strategy that will work for you. But first, being a Nigerian and having lived here most of my life, I can put myself in the place of people and know what they need. Perhaps that auntie and her friends, the uncle, what they like. Okay, most men may say they want news, but they don't want the news to be boring. The auntie wants drama, but she wants to laugh as well. And she wants a moral lesson for her family, for her children. Young people want to dance, but they want the song to be exciting. And if you can make a song that can align with where they have been, the journey they are passing through, topics that they are facing, the Nigerian atmosphere, put their lives into perspective, all the better for them. So it may be tasking at a time when we are getting a foothold on the different things that people want and they can enjoy and they can learn from. But as we grab a stronger hold, we get a better focus, and that way it becomes fulfilling and exciting. And the journey is on. We're all on track.
Indeed, the journey is on, and I like what you said. The broadcasting is very exciting. I certainly love it. But I just want to come back to the issue of cost and go back to Awais. Where, like I said earlier on, we're moving, into completely new territory now. When I say we, I'm talking about in Nigeria. I know in the rest of the world they've kind of like gradually gone there. So on-the-go content. Is it possible? I mean, or how easy is it to put paywalls on some of this mobile content? Because young people these days, we must admit, they want their news on the go. Somebody mentioned mobile phones earlier on. That's where they get a lot of their content from. I know that when I want to get some content, some newspapers here, I have to pay a subscription fee. How easy is it, Awais, to set up those paywalls on for on-the-go sites in Nigeria?
I think paywalls already exist on a lot of platforms. Paid platform, be it Netflix or any type of platform. I think it depends on your strategy. So I think the mechanism already exists in the market. Maybe it differs a bit in terms of how you want to work with mobile operators in terms of implementing those paywalls and how can be making the ease of the transaction easier. But I think the technology already exists. Is it more complex in terms of how you achieve that in a specific market like Nigeria? I think so, probably a bit more. I think it's somewhat different, for example, in Europe or North America, where it's maybe more simplified. You'll have it attached to your direct debit in your bank, or you'll have Apple Pay or Google Pay, and it's a subscription that comes out. But we have to also acknowledge the economic situation and the forex situation in Nigeria and the complications that may bring with setting up a paywall, especially if you want to charge in dollars or something, along those lines. So I think the technology is already there. I'm sure that Showmax and others are already have the paywalls in place. So I don't think that's much of a difficult thing to implement.
Do you agree with that, Candice? I mean, do you guys have your paywalls in place? Are you making money via subscriptions?
Yeah, so Showmax is a subscription video on demand service, with the monthly subscription fee. And I think I do agree the technology absolutely exists, but what the important part is here is making it easy for the customer to pay. You need to be able to bill in local currency, not just in a dollar, have the dollar currency. You need to have rands in South Africa, naira in Nigeria, make it easy for the customer to pay. Not everyone has access to a credit card. So what other means can you make, available? Is it through the likes of vouchers or working with the banks so that you can have your debit card used, and at the end of the month, it can be utilized in that way? Can you utilize the voucher to access and pay for your subscription? So I think it really is understanding each respective market. And I know, Showmax are working very closely with a number of companies in Nigeria to try and find what are the right partnerships to make sure that the customer can pay for the service quite easily. At the moment, bank customers like Zenith Bank, GT Bank, Stanbic, IBTC banks, you can all use, you get discounted subscriptions with their customers when you sign up with the bank and pay with your debit cards. I think there's also Verve and Baxi and QuickTeller, which are utilized as well. And you can also pay with your MTN airtime. Something that most users are quite familiar is how to utilize your airtime. And having that on board and as a partnership, really makes that experience a lot easier for the end customer. So for me is, yes, there's a payment platform that exists, but is how do we make it easy for you to pay for your subscription at the end of the month?
That's very interesting, actually. And Andrew, is subscription or subscription something, an aspect that you guys are willing to go into? Because I know that, in places like North America now, some TV stations are subscription only.
I mean, if there was a market there for us, Peter, yeah, of course we would. But it's not something we're currently looking at. I mean, what we are putting more and more resource into now is online viewing. So particularly through YouTube, we've got a whole online division now that we're really ramping up, and that's turning into something that's really worthwhile for us. We know that people want to watch short video clips. That's the material they're watching on the go, particularly a youth audience. It could be entertainment clips, it could be news clips, whatever is hot at the time. The trick, of course, with putting up short video is you need to own the content if you're going to monetize it. So we're spending a lot of time doing that. We're employing quite a few people to work in that division for us. The great thing about YouTube is, everybody's talking about local currencies. It's paid in US dollars. That's very attractive for a broadcaster like us. So we can actually earn foreign hard currency from engaging in that particular activity. But no, I mean, in answer to your question, outside of that, free TV and free radio is very much the model that we're concentrating on. We battle every day to increase our market share of the advertising revenue. The thing about the Nigerian market is advertising market. A lot of people may be surprised to hear this, but in a country with a population of 200 million, the total TV and radio advertising market is $200 million. In a country of this size, it should be in the billions of dollars, but it's not. And that'll show you how difficult it is when you've got, 5, 6, 7 national broadcasters and then hundreds of local television and hundreds of local radio stations all competing for that $200 million. It's madness. So you've got to really focus on what you're doing. You've got to give the audiences what they want. You've got to pull in big numbers of viewers and listeners so that you can attract the advertising dollars, or in this particular case, Naira. But the market is very, very small here. So it's a tough game. This is a very tough business. And there are people who've been working in this market here in TV and radio for 10, 20, 30 years. They would be the biggest players in the market. And we're all really fighting to get our share of it. But it's tough out there, you know. And the fascinating thing about Nigeria is TV and radio licenses are like confetti at a wedding. They get thrown out willy-nilly, but very few survive the long haul. And it's a difficult journey. So you've got to be very careful about how you run your business, but you've got to fight for the advertising share, because if you don't get that, you're gone, you're dead. So it's a tough game. But subscription, you know, I go back to DTT when it eventually launches here. It will provide more choice for consumers. As I say, there'll be up to 60 channels available. I think the market is still very much in the free end of the medium. There are others who specialize in subscription-based services. I think it's a limited market. I know it's a very tough market, and you've got to have big content, very expensive content to produce to pull in those subscriptions.
Indeed. I just want to come back to you. You know, Andrew just mentioned something very interesting. You know, putting your content on YouTube, which is, you know, available there for you to do, which can be monetized. I mean, how well can a you know, relatively small content provider do by placing his or her content on YouTube?
Yeah, I think, look, YouTube's a very good medium for smaller content producers. We've seen it in other markets. It's, you know, it does very well for some people. I think the question is, you know, what's the market like that in Nigeria for a small producer? You know, what's the potential, you know, ad income? What's the, you know, the click, you know, the CPM rates you can achieve? And I think that's still a bit more, that is still a bit tough at the moment, but it's a very good, I think it's a very good medium for, you know, for distributing your content. Because, you know, the distribution costs can be high if you go to satellite, or, you know, you want to go terrestrial, whatever it is. I mean, there's a cost in that. But, you know, someone can, you know, you see YouTubers, you know, they you know, it can take two people to create some content. You know, if it's interesting enough, it can do very well. We see it in many other markets. But I think the potential is huge. You know, we can't forget the potential for Nigeria. You know, I think what, north of 200 million population, and significant portion of them are young. So I think the potential is you know, is amazing, and I think that you'll see more and more of that coming on board. And we believe a lot in the online space, but also on the, you know, on the free TV space as well. So you know, we see huge potential for that.
And Joy, as I always just mentioned, satellite distribution can be very expensive. What can be done to bring down these prices for content providers who want to reach a wider audience? Because we know, you know, how wide satellite goes.
Yeah, yes, of course. You know, like I said earlier, we understand exactly the pains that the broadcasters are going through, and as a company, we have structured our offerings in such a way that our customers will have the flexibility that suits their business plan or their budget. For instance, if we have a customer who wants a transponder, you know, a full transponder from us, we will understand that going for a full transponder, which is, you know, some people perceive as very expensive, to pay, you know, outrightly, you know, for the capacity, we could, you know, structure something like a pay as you go or a ramp up pricing model for the customers based on the number of channels that they want to put on the transponder at a given point in time. Because for instance, we have a customer or a broadcaster who has 10 channels and plans to grow to, say, 30 channels in 6 months. And we have that flexibility to allow this customer to subscribe with us and pay for the right capacity that would carry 10 channels at the moment, rather than having him pay for the entire transponder, whereas he's going to use just half of the transponder or even less. So we have that ramp up pricing model. We have we can also consider a pay as you grow or a pay as you go model. So there are various models that we have in place that we can provide for our customers on case-by-case basis. Of course, doesn't apply to every customer. It depends on each customer's situation or strategy at a given point in time. So this is what we do. And today, what this has happened, this has given us is a huge eyeball on our free-to-air platform. We have many broadcasters today who are on our free-to-air platform on 28.2 degrees east Astra 2F platform. So here channels from Nigeria, channels from Ghana are on this platform. This is also the neighborhood that houses the DSO free TV platform. So yeah, and this is the success we have recorded on this platform has shows how flexible we are in ensuring that customers who are struggling to fund their businesses also has a place with us as a satellite provider.
And since I've got you here, Joy, because I did say I was going to come back to this a bit earlier on, you said SCS has been working with the authorities to try towards this migration from analog to digital. It's been postponed so many times. I don't know if you can just shed some light, or if you're allowed to shed some light on where exactly we are on this journey.
It's been a whole lot of struggle for Nigeria as a country, and the truth of the matter is that this is not peculiar to Nigeria. Other African countries are also struggling, the same way. But the problem we have seen as a major stakeholder in the Nigerian DSO program is funding has remained a challenge. Before 2021, government had subsidized the cost of the set-top boxes, as well as the carriage fees, and the digital access fee as well. But sometime around, I think April 2021, it was announced that governments had withdrawn their involvement with regards to funding of the DSO, and the DSO is expected to run as a self-funding project. And this is the problem, right? So the signal distributors, ITS and Pinnacle, are not able to continue, pushing as much as they are supposed to push at this very point in time because of cost of infrastructure, especially for Pinnacle. ITS has a better advantage because of the relationship with NTA. So they are riding on the existing NTA infrastructure across the country. And this is actually why today, out of the 8 countries, 8 cities that have been migrating from analog to digital, 6 out of those states were implemented by ITS, and while 2 were implemented by Pinnacle. So this is the problem. And again, the broadcasters also have their own concerns as well. They are not buying into the program at all because it doesn't seem to have anything for them, right? Yeah, the broadcaster has to pay for carriage fees, has to pay for licensing fees, has to pay for satellite distribution, contribution, uplink, and all of that. So there's a whole lot of burden on them. So they're not yet in agreement, and this has actually affected the progress of the DSO. The last time we had a deadline of migration of December 2021, but now there's a new timetable that has December 2022. But I tell you, that is not realistic because we are still on 8 cities at the moment out of 36 states, right? So yeah, so these are the issues. Set-top boxes, the cost of set-top boxes is also another challenge, and also the distribution and availability of these set-top boxes. The last time we checked, I think what we had in country was about 1 million set-top boxes in a country of over 200 million people. So you know, there's a whole lot of, you know, issues there that need to be looked into, especially the white paper, the structure of the white paper. The white paper says the signal distributors would be responsible for the aggregation and distribution of the content, while InView handles the caste system, the encryptions, and you know, and then the set-top boxes manufacturers are also there. So it cuts across all aspects and all, you know, all stakeholders in the DSO program. So yeah, so these are the problems that we see happening in that space.
Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed with that, Joy. We don't have much time left now. You know, those are problems that Joy has just listed. I always like to leave on a positive. So I'm just going to get, you know, a quick, you know, 1 minute from all of you, asking you a few questions, advice for, you know, content providers, for, you know, small stations and all that. I'm going to start with you, Candice. If you had any advice for, you know, a very small content provider with a very limited budget on what to do to grow their business, what would that be?
Okay, so I would say for any content providers who are looking to partner, Showmax are very invested in Nigeria. We really do want to create more content. We want to create more local content. So if you do have any passion projects, any incredible ideas, or you have your heart set on creating a series or a movie, please come and talk to us, because we'd absolutely like to look at your proposal. You know, we do have a submissions portal where you can submit your ideas. And maybe it's something we can work together on. And, you know, if it is something exciting, and we could potentially look at bringing that to a screen in Nigeria on Showmax. So instead of going it alone, let's try and do it together. Absolutely.
Fantastic. That's great. Thelma, is that something that the NTA is willing to do as well? Talk to independent producers, young independent producers who have fabulous content?
We are always doing that. We are always doing that. In the last few weeks, in the last few months, we've been having meetings with young people from Lagos, from Jos, some trained, some untrained, because there's so much raw talent out there. You don't have to be schooled to be ingenious. You don't have to be schooled to be creative. If we're thinking business, if we're thinking business success, the future is partnerships. But also with content, more young people are coming together of both gender to bring their creative ideas together in terms of entertainment, knowledge, culture. They are celebrating culture, the food, the language, the dance. And we had over like 5 meetings in the last 1 week. I think the next quarter is going to be birthed with a lot of pleasant surprises for Nigerians at home and abroad. And of course, the partnerships continue. I like to tell young people that nothing is undoable. As long as you have a dream, you have a vision, you imagine it can be done. No one thought NTA would do 40 years and over, but that's where we are. And we're still building, celebrating the platform we took off with, and trying to bring ingenious ideas to the fore. And we're moving on.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Andrew, very briefly, I know you've got a huge staff force that delivers a lot of content for you, but are you always still on the lookout?
Look, absolutely, and you know, I'd echo what the previous speakers have said. We're right now we're talking to a Nollywood producer. They're great at producing drama and various other types of content that we're not specialists in. We don't have all the expertise, so the interest that the Nollywood producer has in us is they have movie premieres and they need to publicize them, and they need advertising, and they need support, and they need a lot of eyeballs to get in and go to the cinemas to make sure that they get a box office hit on their hands. So we can help them with that, with the huge audiences we have, and then in return we can start talking about partnerships on content that they're really experts at producing. So fantastic. You know, just as Candace says, come and talk to us. You know, it's all about partnerships and about being clever and about being creative, about how you make it work for both.
Okay, I think I might be able to squeeze Awais in here. Awais, monetizing your talent. Just a quick advice for people who are looking to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, people can start with YouTube to start with, and it's a good way to also show popularity of the content you produce. And that also helps to build partnerships with, you know, distributors or TV channels that the panel have already spoken about. So I think the easiest way is, if you, depending on how small you are, you can do that. And then obviously if you're bigger, partnerships is definitely the way to, people are always interested in content. So I think there's always a way to monetize your content. If you produce good content, interesting, and there's always a market for it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Awais, Candice, Joy, Thelma, and Andrew for being part of this country-focused Nigeria panel for the Nextv CEO Africa 2022. I'll hand back to Shannon now.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you everyone for this insightful panel discussion. On behalf of Data Access, I would like to thank all our sponsors, speakers, moderators, attendees for making this edition a success. And I'm pleased to announce that after almost 3 years, the Nextv CEO Africa is coming back as an in-person conference, and it will take place on the 27th and the 28th of September in Kigali, Rwanda. Stay tuned, and until then, goodbye.